Hi Internet, welcome to the Greg Troyan YouTube channel. So have you ever wished that you could play high-end video games without high-end hardware? I know there are a lot of folks like me who are interested in newer games, like Expedition 33, but don't own a gaming PC or modern console, and the biggest reason for their inability to buy modern hardware is due to price. We live in a post-Reagan economy. The working class's wages are shrinking and shrinking, and real talk, a lot of us can't afford a gaming PC, PS5, or Xbox. Gaming is largely a hobby that is economically gate-kept. And with most Americans not being able to afford a $400 emergency, spending $500 on a console is basically out of the question. As such, a lot of folks like myself just don't pay as much attention to the modern gaming scene. But every now and then, a title will catch your eye and make you go, man, I wish I could play that. I'm a massive fan of the Final Fantasy series. I played and beaten every mainline game. In fact, I did 10 hours of video essays, ranking each game in a bunch of different categories. Playlist linked below. But while my PC could handle 15 on low settings, there was zero chance it would be able to survive the graphical onslaught that is Final Fantasy XVI. I figured I wouldn't be able to play 16 for a number of years. After all, I had to wait like 5 years after the release of FF15 to play that one. And thus I assumed I would have the same fate in regards to 16. So I just watched the cutscenes on YouTube and called it a day. However, when following the socials for FF16, I found a post where they announced the game was being added to GeForce Now and would be available to play. Granted, I had no idea what GeForce Now was, but I had a hunch based on the post, and my hunch turned out to be right. For those who don't know, GeForce Now is a service from NVIDIA that allows you to play high-end games on low-end devices. Basically, GeForce Now connects your PC to a stream of a high-end gaming rig, and you control the rig remotely from your device. Thus, you're able to play graphic-intensive games without high-end hardware. There's no need to worry about your PC overheating or not having enough storage space with GeForce Now, which is great. And folks who want to play newer games but may not have the required hardware can jump in on some newer titles. Just so it's clear, this video is not sponsored by Square Enix, GeForce Now, or NVIDIA in any way. So I'm going to describe to you what it was like using the service to play Final Fantasy XVI to help you decide if you think it might be right for you. My biases have nothing to do with getting paid off by any company involved, though I'm often called a simp for Square Enix because of my massive fandom for Final Fantasy. So take my biases up front with a grain of salt as I relay my thoughts on using GeForce Now to play Final Fantasy XVI. First off, GeForce Now isn't like Netflix, Disney Plus, or other subscription services where you get access to a library for a monthly fee. GeForce Now syncs up to your Steam or Epic Games library, and you play games that you already own, so if there's a game you want to play on GeForce Now, you need to own a digital copy. Second, GeForce Now is only compatible with certain games, so it's possible a game you might want to play won't be available on GeForce Now. While they have over 2,000 games available, titles like Metaphor and the new Final Fantasy VII remakes are not on the service, but games like Black Myth Wukong and Expedition 33 are. So step 1 is to make sure you check the list to see if the game you want to play is even on there. The next step is looking at subscription plans. There's a few different ones, so allow me to give you a brief overview. There's a free plan that's great for testing out GeForce Now that is ad-supported and gives you an unlimited number of 1-hour play sessions. There are also daily, monthly, and yearly plans that vary in price and the length of play sessions. I went for a monthly plan that allowed for an unlimited number of 6-hour play sessions. You do only get 100 hours of play time per month, but if you exceed 100 hours in a single month, you can either purchase a day pass, an extra 15 hours of play time for the month, or just be bumped down to the free 1-hour sessions for the remainder of the month. If you have any playtime left over from your 100 hours, it rolls into the next month at a maximum of 15 hours. So while your first month will only have 100 hours of playtime with the service, you could get potentially 115 for the next month if you had at least 15 hours left over. In terms of raw dollars and cents, it means if you get the $10 plan for the 6-hour play sessions, and you're just buying one game you want to play, and it's under 100 hours of playtime, you'll likely only need a premium GeForce plan for a month. You can then unsub, and then just sub back up when you want to play something else on the service. If you're playing something longer, or have a lot of other things going on, you might end up subbing for maybe a couple of months. For me, it took me 2 months to beat Final Fantasy XVI, but I was also out of town for like 3 weeks in that 2-month period, and I ended up beating the game in around 95 hours. So while I could have been hardcore and theoretically gotten in all 100 hours in 1 month, I just didn't have the time because of how busy I got with work and such. So let's say your schedule is comparable to mine, so that means subbing for 2 months to beat Final Fantasy XVI would cost like $20 from GeForce, plus the cost of the game, which I got on a Steam sale for I think like $40 or $50 with the DLC included. So how was my experience? Overall pretty good. But I'll tell you right now, elitist gaming snobs are going to scoff at this service for a number of reasons. First off, this is minor, but they'll kick you out of a game session if you're idle for too long, so you can't take a 15-minute break to grab a snack without pressing a button on your controller just to let them know you're still playing. Kinda like the YouTube still watching thing, but whatever, that's a minor annoyance, that's not a big deal. What is a big deal to a lot of people, especially elitist gaming snobs, is frame rates and frame drops. How does GeForce Now deal with frame rate issues? Well, it's a mixed bag. You're not going to get the same perfect performance of a $2,000 gaming PC for 10 bucks. That should be obvious, but there are folks out there who refuse to play anything at less than 60 FPS and consider it an insult to play at 30 FPS. Also, if there's a single frame drop, they'll rage about something being absolute trash. I'm not gonna lie, I got some frame drops and played at 30 FPS. But I also played on a $300 laptop connected to Wi-Fi when GeForce recommends you use an Ethernet cable for better connection. And real talk, I was just lazy and didn't feel like plugging in the Ethernet cable for improved performance. But you know what? It was fine. I had a couple of frame drops and it didn't look as pretty as a PS5, but whatever, it played fine and still looked good. Bruh, my computer will crash if I try to export a video essay above 720p, and it's playing Final Fantasy freaking 16. I can live with how it looks and plays. I've got some gameplay footage playing now from me using GeForce, so you can decide for yourself if it's unplayable or not. But remember, this is for folks on a budget. For $10 freaking dollars, yeah, I can deal with it. $500 for a PS5, $2,000 for a gaming PC, pre-tariff prices mind you, or $10 for a GeForce Now sub for a month. Look, I don't really buy too many modern games anyway, so for what I do, GeForce is perfect. In fact, if you sub to GeForce for 4 straight years, only then would it equal the cost of a PS5. So if you're not active every month and are just popping in when there's a particular game you want to play, not gonna lie, it's pretty great for that. So the result of my experiment with GeForce Now is that I'll be on the lookout for newer games I like, and if they're added to the service, like say Expedition 33, I'll buy a copy of the game and play it on GeForce until I get the money for a higher end system. If you're looking at the frame quality with disgust, remember, this ain't for you. This is for the broke folks, the street urchins, who still want to check out newer games and are pretty chill. Those of us who remember the clunky PS1 days with fondness aren't going to stress about 30 FPS. So, if you want to test GeForce Now for yourself, I have the perfect test for you. Use the free version of GeForce Now and try out the free demo of Final Fantasy XVI. That's what I used to test out the service to see if it would work my laptop, and it did. Then I wishlisted Final Fantasy XVI, waited for it to go on sale, bought it on sale, finished the other game I was playing, and then got a GeForce Now sub to play Final Fantasy XVI. While I don't plan on subbing to GeForce Now every month, I do plan on wishlisting more modern, hardware-intensive games if I see them added to GeForce Now. And if they go on a good sale, I plan on picking them up and using the service to play them. It worked well for me and my gaming needs, and I'm here to deliver the message to somebody else who might be in a similar position if interested. Judge for yourself, I'm just here to provide you with the info. Well, that's the video. What do you think? Are you going to give GeForce Now a try? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel in order to help me rise in the almighty algorithm. This channel is my small personal hobby channel, but there's a playlist of over 67 videos on JRPG content for you to check out if you're interested, as well as a bunch of music reactions and other goodies. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around on the interwebs.